great void and celestial bodies. Another human? They sent us another one of those fleshy bipeds? Commander Torik slammed his upper appendages on the command console. His scaly skin flushed a deep purple, signaling his frustration to everyone on the bridge. What are the Galactic Command officials thinking? We requested an elite Navaxian pilot with multiple tentacles for simultaneous control operations, not another squishy water bag with only 2 hands. Lieutenant Zandara glanced at the transfer orders on her screen, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence. This one is called Marcus Donovan. According to his file, he's a backup pilot, sir. Never even commanded his own vessel. Backup. Even better. Torik's sarcasm dripped heavier than plutonian acid rain. We are facing the most mysterious disappearances of battle fleets in recorded history, and they send us a spare part? Wonderful. Simply wonderful. The massive view screen of the GSS, Intrepid, displayed the approaching shuttle. The small craft looked insignificant against the backdrop of swirling nebula gases and distant stars. Aboard was the newest addition to their crew, the human backup pilot that Commander Torik had already decided would be utterly useless. He will be docking in Bay 4 in approximately 7 minutes, Commander reported Navigation Officer Pelk, his translucent fingers dancing across the holographic controls. Torik growled, a sound that started deep in his 3 respiratory chambers. Lieutenant Zandara, go meet this Marcus. Give him the standard orientation. Try not to frighten him with your mandibles. Zandara clicked her mouth parts together in what passed for a grin among her species. I will retract them, sir. Though humans seem to find our natural appearance disturbing regardless. They find everything disturbing. It's their default state, Torik muttered. That's why they are always inventing new ways to destroy things. Paranoia is their evolutionary advantage. The bridge crew chuckled nervously. Jokes about humans were common throughout the Galactic Alliance, but everyone knew the truth. Humans had proven themselves surprisingly adaptable and resourceful since their inclusion in the interstellar community 97 standard years ago. Some species found this threatening, others merely curious. All agreed they were unpredictable. Sir, Pelk interrupted, his voice suddenly serious. Long-range sensors are detecting unusual spatial distortions in the Caledon sector, similar readings to the ones reported before the 7th Fleet vanished. Commander Torik's irritation immediately transformed into focused attention. Distance? 2.7 light-years, sir. The distortion is growing. Sound yellow alert. I want all systems at 90% readiness. Torik straightened his uniform. Perhaps our new human backup can observe how a real crew handles a potential crisis. Lieutenant Zandara, after orientation, bring him to the bridge. Let's see what a backup pilot is good for, if anything. Marcus Donovan felt the familiar shudder as the shuttle docked with the larger vessel. His stomach lurched slightly, though whether from the docking procedure or nerves he couldn't tell. Probably both. The SS Intrepid secure docking achieved, announced the shuttle's AI in its pleasantly neutral voice. Atmospheric pressure stabilizing. Temperature adjusting to human comfort levels in the airlock. Thanks, Snappoint, Marcus replied, gathering his duffel bag. He'd named the shuttle's navigation system during the long journey from Earth, though he knew the AI didn't care or even truly understand the gesture. So this assignment was unexpected. Marcus had been serving as 3rd backup pilot on the Jupiter station when the orders came through. He'd never even been beyond the Sol system before, and suddenly he was being shipped to the edge of known space to join an alien crew investigating mysterious fleet disappearances. It didn't make sense. The Galactic Alliance had thousands of experienced pilots from dozens of species. Why send him? The question had kept him awake during the long weeks of travel. The airlock hissed open, revealing a tall, insectoid alien with 4 eyes and retracted mandibles. Her exoskeleton gleamed under the lights, a pearlescent blue that shifted as she moved. Pilot Marcus Donovan? Her voice came through his universal translator with only the slightest delay. I am Lieutenant Zandara, 2nd officer of the GSS, Intrepid. Welcome aboard. Marcus stood at attention and gave the galactic salute, right hand flat against the left shoulder. Lieutenant, thank you for the welcome. Xandara's upper eyes narrowed slightly. Follow me. I will give you the orientation tour before taking you to meet Commander Torik on the bridge. As they walked through the corridors of the massive ship, Marcus felt the stares of the crew. The Intrepid housed representatives of 17 different species, and humans were clearly a rarity. Some looked at him with curiosity, others with what he interpreted as disdain, though reading alien expressions was tricky at best. The Intrepid is a Varangian-class exploration vessel retrofitted for investigative operations, Xandara explained as they walked. We have a crew of 422, representing 17 species from the Galactic Alliance. You are currently the only human aboard. I noticed, Marcus said, attempting a smile. Not many of my kind out this far? You volunteer for deep space assignments, Xandara replied. Your species tends to prefer remaining closer to your home world. Something about familial attachments and psychological well-being. Marcus nodded. We are working on that. Each generation gets a little more adventurous. They passed through engineering, where massive plasma conduits pulsed with energy. Technicians of various species monitored the systems. One, a gelatinous being contained within an environmental suit, waved a pseudopod at Xandara in greeting. Our engine room, Xandara said unnecessarily. The Intrepid utilizes a quantum-fold drive for faster-than-light travel. I understand humans are still primarily using warp bubble technology? For commercial vessels, yes. Military has quantum-fold capabilities, but they are limited. They continued through hydroponics, life support, medical and crew quarters. Marcus's assigned room was small but comfortable, designed to approximate human living conditions. He dropped his bag inside before they continued toward the bridge. Lieutenant, Marcus said carefully as they entered a lift tube. May I ask why I was selected for this assignment? I'm not complaining, but there must be more qualified pilots available. Xandara's mandibles clicked once behind their protective covering. The commander was wondering the same thing. Orders came directly from Galactic Command. Perhaps they will explain their reasoning eventually. The lift accelerated rapidly, then stopped with barely a sensation of movement. When the doors opened, Marcus got his first view of the Intrepid's bridge. It was enormous, at least 3 times the size of any human vessel's command center. Workstations were arranged in concentric circles, each staffed by different species. In the center, on a raised platform, stood who Marcus assumed must be Commander Torik, a reptilian being with iridescent scales and 4 arms, currently gesturing animatedly at a holographic display. Yellow alert status remains in effect, announced a computerized voice. All personnel maintain readiness protocols. Xandara led Marcus toward the command platform. Commander, Pilot Marcus Donovan has arrived. Torik turned, all 4 arms crossing in different configurations across his chest. His vertical pupils narrowed as he looked Marcus up and down. So, he said, his translator conveying a tone of mild contempt, you are the backup pilot Galactic Command has seen fit to send us. Have you ever encountered a spatial anomaly capable of making an entire battle fleet vanish without a trace, Pilot Donovan? Marcus stood straighter. No, sir. But I have studied the theoretical physics of dimensional rifts and quantum disruption fields. Studied. How reassuring. Torik made a sound that the translator didn't convert. Well, you have arrived just in time for a practical demonstration. We are tracking a distortion that matches the signature of the anomalies associated with the previous disappearances. Marcus looked at the main view screen, which showed swirling energy patterns against the star field. Those energy signatures, they are fluctuating in a non-random pattern. Torik's head tilted slightly. Yes, you noticed that quickly. It's similar to something we observed near Jupiter's magnetosphere last year. Marcus stepped closer to the screen, though the amplitude is much greater here. But before Torik could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. The commander called out Navigation Officer Pelk. The distortion is expanding rapidly. Energy readings off the scale. Shields to maximum, Torek ordered. Prepare for emergency quantum fold jump. The fold drive isn't responding, reported a technician. Something in the distortion field is interfering with the calculations. Torek's scales darkened. Switch to conventional drives. Get us out of here, maximum thrust. The massive engines of the Intrepid roared to life, but the view screen showed they were making little progress away from the expanding anomaly. It's creating some kind of gravitational pull, Marcus said, stepping forward to examine the readings at the nearest console. The distortion isn't just space-time warping. It's almost like it's targeting the ship specifically. Preposterous, Torek snapped. Spatial anomalies don't target anything. With respect, Commander, Marcus said, his eyes not leaving the data streams, this one appears to be doing exactly that. Look at the gravitational vector. It's adjusting to our course changes. The bridge fell silent for a moment as everyone processed this information. Sir, Zandara said quietly, the human might be right. The gravitational focus is shifting to match our position, Torek hissed through his teeth. If that's true, then these aren't natural phenomena at all. They are weapons. The implications hung in the air. 7 fleets had already vanished. Thousands of lives lost. If these distortions were artificial weapons, they were facing an unknown enemy of terrifying capability. Sir, Marcus said, permission to access the helm control. You? Why? Torek demanded. I have an idea that might break us free of the gravitational lock. It involves using the ship's rotation to create a slingshot effect combined with precise thruster bursts. Torek stared at him, then at the view screen where the distortion was growing larger. We have nothing to lose. Navigation officer, allow the human access to secondary helm controls. Pelk moved aside, his translucent fingers gesturing Marcus to the station. The controls were different from what Marcus was used to, but the principles were the same. He quickly familiarized himself with the interface. This will create significant gravitational stress on the hull, Marcus warned. Everyone should secure themselves. You heard him, Torek announced to the bridge. Secure for extreme maneuvering. Marcus took a deep breath and initiated his plan. The Intrepid began to spin, slowly at first, then faster. He fired thrusters in a complex sequence, creating a wobble in the ship's rotation that generated an oscillating gravitational response. The anomaly is adjusting, Zandara reported, gripping her station. It's trying to maintain lock. That's what I'm counting on, Marcus muttered, fingers flying across the controls. It has to have response limitations there. He executed a final, unexpected thruster burst combined with a pulse from the conventional drive. The Intrepid lurched violently, then shot forward, breaking free of the anomaly's pull. We are clear. Pelk announced, his voice rising with excitement. Get us to safe distance, conventional drive only, Torek ordered, his forearms unclenching from their stress positions. Marcus sat back, exhaling slowly. The maneuver had worked, but barely. If the anomaly had been stronger or reacted faster, they wouldn't have escaped. Impressive, Torek admitted grudgingly. Where did you learn that technique, Pilot Donovan? I didn't, Marcus admitted. I just improvised based on the readings. The bridge crew exchanged glances. Improvisation was not a highly valued trait among many Galactic Alliance species who preferred methodical, proven approaches. The commander called a communications officer, a tall avian being with brilliantly colored feathers. We are receiving a distress signal from the Caledon outpost. They report multiple anomalies forming in their sector. Torek's scales rippled with concern. The 8th Fleet is stationed there. How many ships? 47 vessels, sir, mostly Palladian and Vexari designs. Set course for the Caledon outpost. Best possible speed without engaging the quantum fold drive, Torek ordered. And someone contact Galactic Command. Tell them we have confirmed these anomalies are artificial constructs, likely weapons. As the crew rushed to comply, Torek turned to Marcus. It seems your arrival was fortuitous, Pilot Donovan. though I suspect backup pilot may not be your full story. Marcus shook his head. Sir, I'm exactly what my file says. Third backup pilot, Jupiter Station. This is my first deep space assignment. Torek studied him with unreadable reptilian eyes. Then either humans are naturally more gifted than we have been led to believe, or someone at Galactic Command knows something about you that even you don't know. He gestured to the helm. For now, you have earned a place at that station. We will need your improvisation if we are going to help the 8th Fleet. The Intrepid arrived at the Caledon outpost 17 hours later. They were too late. For a bustling space station and 47 warships should have been, there was nothing but floating debris and expanding gases. The entire 8th Fleet had vanished, along with the outpost and its 12,000 inhabitants. Scan for survivors, Torek ordered, his voice tight. No life signs detected, reported the sensor operator, a small furred creature with 6 limbs. Residual energy signatures match those of the anomalies we encountered. Marcus stood at the helm, staring at the devastation. They didn't even have a chance to evacuate. No, Torek agreed grimly. Whatever these weapons are, they are becoming more efficient. The 7th Fleet reported anomalies for nearly 6 hours before contact was lost. This happened in minutes. Lieutenant Zandara approached the command platform. Sir, we have analyzed the debris. Most of it is from the station's outer hull. There's almost nothing from the ships themselves. They weren't destroyed, Marcus said quietly. They were taken somewhere, and all 4 of Torek's arms made a complex gesture that the translator didn't interpret. That possibility had occurred to me as well. The question is, where, and by whom? The communications officer interrupted. Commander, priority message from Galactic Command. Admiral Vox wishes to speak with you immediately. Put him through to my ready room, Torek ordered. He pointed one of his lower arms at Marcus. You, come with me. Marcus followed the commander off the bridge and into a small adjacent room. A holographic communication array hummed to life, projecting the image of an enormous, gelatinous being with multiple eye stalks, Admiral Vox of Galactic Command. Commander Torek, the Admiral's translated voice boomed. I see you have met Pilot Donovan. Yes, Admiral, Torek replied. He proved unexpectedly useful during our encounter with one of the anomalies. However, I question why a backup human pilot was assigned to this mission when we specifically requested. I'm aware of your request, Commander, Vox interrupted, his eye stalks swiveling to focus on Marcus. But Pilot Donovan possesses certain genetic markers that our scientists believe may be relevant to this situation. Marcus blinked in surprise. Genetic markers, sir? I wasn't aware of any unusual genetic testing in my service record. All Alliance personnel undergo comprehensive genetic mapping, Pilot, Vox explained. Yours contains sequences that bear striking similarities to ancient genetic samples recovered from the Denali excavation. Torek's scales rippled in what Marcus was learning to recognize as surprise. The Denali artifacts? Those are from a civilization that disappeared over 3 million years ago. Precisely, Vox's massive form rippled. And they disappeared in a manner very similar to our missing fleets. Entire planetary populations, gone without explanation. Marcus felt a chill run through him. Are you suggesting there's some connection between my DNA and a species that vanished 3 million years ago? How is that possible? We don't know, Vox admitted. But we have detected similar genetic markers in 17 humans throughout the Alliance. You were simply the one with pilot training closest to the investigation zone. So I'm here because of a genetic coincidence? Marcus asked incredulously. Perhaps not coincidence, Vox's eye stalks waved thoughtfully. The Denali were masters of temporal and dimensional manipulation. Our scientists have theorized that the artifacts we have recovered may be more than simple relics. They might be components of a vast defensive system designed to combat the very force that eventually consumed their civilization. And now that force has returned, Torek concluded, targeting our fleets. We believe so, Vox confirmed. which is why we have dispatched teams to locate all 17 humans with the genetic markers. Our hope is that something in your genetic code might help us understand and possibly control any Denali technology we can recover. Marcus shook his head, trying to process this information. With respect, Admiral, I'm just a pilot. I don't know anything about ancient aliens or how to activate their technology. You may know more than you realize, Pilot Donovan, Vox replied cryptically. New orders are being transmitted to the Intrepid. You are to proceed to the Denali excavation site on Farpoint Colony. Our chief archaeologist, Dr. Neva, will meet you there. The Farpoint Colony is on the other side of Alliance space, Torek protested. It will take weeks to reach it, even with quantum fold drive. Which is why you will be taking a shortcut, Vox said. A Palladian phase jumper has been dispatched to your location. It will rendezvous with the Intrepid in approximately 6 hours and transport a small team directly to Farpoint. Marcus had heard of phase jumpers, experimental vessels that could temporarily shift out of normal space-time, allowing for nearly instantaneous travel across vast distances. They were notoriously dangerous and unreliable. I will assemble a team, Torek said, his tone making it clear he didn't appreciate this change of plans. One more thing, Vox added. Our analysis suggests that the anomalies are increasing in both frequency and power. The next target appears to be the Vega starbase. The First Fleet has been mobilized for its defense, but based on previous encounters. He didn't need to finish the thought. The First Fleet, pride of the Galactic Alliance with over 200 warships, would likely share the fate of the previous 7 fleets. We are running out of time, Vox continued. Whatever answers are waiting at the Denali excavation, you need to find them quickly. The fate of the Alliance may depend on it. The hologram flickered and disappeared. Torek turned to Marcus, his reptilian features inscrutable. It seems you are more valuable than either of us realized, Pilot Donovan. Though I'm not convinced that a genetic similarity to a long-dead species will prove useful against whatever we are facing. Neither am I, Commander, Marcus admitted. But if there's any chance it helps, I have to try. Indeed. Torek straightened. I will select the away team personally. Lieutenant Zandera will accompany you, along with our Chief Science Officer and security detail. Prepare yourself, human. Phase jumping is unpleasant for most species. As they returned to the bridge, Marcus found himself wondering how he had gone from backup pilot to potentially crucial piece in an ancient cosmic puzzle in less than a day. If the Admiral was right, something in his very DNA connected him to a civilization that had faced the same threat now consuming Alliance fleets. But what could one human possibly do against a force capable of making entire fleets vanish without a trace? The answer, he suspected, lay waiting at the Denali excavation site. Whether he would understand it when he found it was another question entirely. The bridge view screen showed the expanding debris field of what had once been the 8th Fleet. Soon the First Fleet might join it. After that, perhaps the entire Alliance. Unless a backup pilot with mysterious genetic markers could somehow make a difference. Prepare for rendezvous with the phase jumper, Torek announced to the bridge. And pray to whatever deities you believe in that the Denali left us something useful. Marcus took his place at the helm, watching the distant stars and wondering which of them might hold the answers they so desperately needed. One thing was certain, his life as a backup pilot was over. What he was becoming instead remained to be seen. 6 hours later, the Palladian phase jumper arrived. It was smaller than Marcus had expected, a sleek, crystalline vessel that seemed to shimmer in and out of visibility as it approached the Intrepid. Beautiful, Marcus murmured as he watched from the observation deck. And incredibly dangerous, added Lieutenant Zandara, who had joined him. His technology is unstable. The Palladians are the only species with the neural capacity to pilot them effectively. Is that why they are green? Marcus asked, noting the emerald skin tone of the pilots visible through the phase jumper's transparent hull. Their chlorophyll-based biology gives them unique advantages in processing the quantum information necessary for phase navigation, Zandara explained. Also, they don't experience the side effects that most species do. What side effects? Marcus asked. Zandara's mandibles clicked. You will find out soon enough. The away team assembled in the main shuttle bay. Marcus, Lieutenant Zandara, Science Officer Grell, a tall, spindly being with multiple sensory organs, and two security officers from a heavily muscled species Marcus didn't recognize. Commander Torek addressed them before departure. Your mission is simple in concept, complex in execution. Reach the Denali excavation, find anything that might help us combat these anomalies, and return as quickly as possible. The phase jumper will remain at Farpoint for 72 hours before it must return. 3 days doesn't seem like much time to solve a 3-million-year-old mystery, Marcus noted. It's all the time we have, Torek replied grimly. Based on the increasing frequency of attacks, Alliance analysts predict that within 1 week, the anomalies will begin targeting populated worlds, not just fleets. Billions of lives are at stake. The pressure of that statement hung heavily in the air as they boarded the phase jumper. Inside, the Palladian crew greeted them with formal nods. The interior was minimalist, with few visible controls and seats that seemed designed to accommodate various physiologies. "Welcome aboard," said the Palladian captain, her voice melodious through the translator. "I am Phase Navigator Ileana. Please secure yourselves. This transition can be disorienting for non-Palladians." They strapped into the adaptive seats, which molded around their various body shapes. Marcus found himself facing a window that showed the Intrepid's massive bulk against the starfield. "Phase transition initiating in 30 seconds, Ileana announced. You may experience temporal perception distortion, brief hallucinations, or memory discontinuity. These are normal and temporary." "Wonderful," Marcus muttered. "Temporal perception distortion sounds delightful." Zandara made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Just focus on something concrete. It helps." Beginning phase shift, Ileana called out. 3, 2, 1. Was the universe folded? That was the only way Marcus could describe it. Everything around him seemed to compress, stretch, and then invert. Colors became sounds. Sounds became sensations. His perception of time fractured, with moments stretching into eternities while hours compressed into instants. He saw himself as a child, then as an old man, then back in the phase jumper but with different companions, then alone in an endless void. Past, present, and possible futures blended together in a kaleidoscopic nightmare. And then, abruptly, it was over. Marcus gasped, returning to normal perception with a jolt that left him nauseous and disoriented. Around him, the other team members were having similar reactions. Even Zandara's usually impassive exoskeleton had paled several shades. "Transition complete," Ileana announced, seemingly unaffected. "Welcome to the Farpoint colony. Local time is equivalent to your 0300 hours. Dr. Neva has been notified of your arrival." Outside the window, Marcus saw a barren, rocky planet under a violet sky with 3 small moons. A sprawling research facility was built into the side of a massive cliff face. "That wasn't so bad," Science Officer Grell said weakly, several of his sensory organs twitching spasmodically. "Speak for yourself," grunted one of the security officers, whose complexion had taken on an unhealthy gray tinge. They disembarked onto a landing pad where a small, welcoming committee awaited them. At the forefront stood a diminutive figure with pale blue skin and large, almond-shaped eyes, presumably Dr. Neva, the chief archaeologist. Lieutenant Zandara of the GSS. Intrepid, Zandara introduced herself with a formal salute. "This is Science Officer Grell, Security Officers Krex and Vorn, and Pilot Marcus Donovan." Dr. Neva's enormous eyes fixed on Marcus immediately. The human with the Denali markers. Fascinating. Her voice was surprisingly deep for her small stature. "I have been studying your genetic profile for weeks, Pilot Donovan. The similarities are remarkable." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "So I have been told, Doctor. Though I'm still not clear on what it means or how it helps us." "Neither am I," Neva admitted frankly. "But I have theories. Come, all of you. The excavation site awaits, and we have very little time."
As they followed Dr. Neva toward a transport vehicle, Marcus glanced back at the phase jumper. Their ride home and their deadline, 72 hours to find an answer that had eluded archaeologists for decades.
Somewhere out in the vast expanse of space, fleets were vanishing. Soon, entire worlds might follow. And somehow, inexplicably, a backup pilot with unusual DNA had become central to stopping it. Marcus took a deep breath of the alien air and followed his team toward whatever destiny awaited in the ancient ruins. He had a feeling that whatever they discovered there would change everything, not just for him, but for the entire Galactic Alliance. The clock was ticking, and somewhere in the darkness between the stars, an ancient enemy was awakening. The transport vehicle rumbled across the rocky terrain of Farpoint Colony, kicking up clouds of purplish dust in its wake. Marcus sat wedged between Lieutenant Zandara and one of the security officers, trying not to think about how quickly their 72 hours were ticking away. The Denali excavation has been active for 27 years, Dr. Neva explained, her large eyes reflecting the violet light of the alien sky. Yet we have barely scratched the surface of their technological achievements. Most of the artifacts we have recovered remain inert, refusing to respond to any stimuli. Until now, Zandara stated, her four eyes fixed on the approaching cliff face where the research facility was embedded. Yes, until now. Neva turned her penetrating gaze to Marcus. 3 weeks ago, during routine scanning, one of the central chambers began emitting low-level radiation with a unique signature. When we compared it to known genetic patterns in the Alliance database, we found matches. 17 of them, all human. Marcus frowned. What does that even mean? How could ancient alien technology respond to human DNA? That, Neva said, with surprising excitement, is the billion-credit question. The Denali vanished 3 million years ago. Humans weren't even recognizable as a species then. Perhaps they visited Earth, suggested Science Officer Grell, his multiple sensory organs twitching with interest. Genetic manipulation is not unknown among advanced civilizations. Or perhaps, Neva continued, the Denali weren't just masters of dimensional technology. Maybe they were time travelers as well. The transport vehicle came to a halt before a massive doorway carved into the cliff face. Ancient symbols, worn by millions of years of exposure, framed the entrance. Despite the erosion, they still glowed with a faint blue luminescence. Welcome to the oldest known artificial structure in our galaxy, Neva announced, the Temple of Dimensional Pathways, as we have come to call it. Though temple may be a misnomer, we believe it was actually a defensive installation. As they disembarked, Marcus felt a strange tingling sensation across his skin. It wasn't unpleasant, more like a gentle electric current running just beneath the surface. None of the others seemed to notice anything unusual. Something wrong, Pilot Donovan? Zandara asked, noticing his expression. I'm not sure, Marcus admitted. I feel something, like a mild electrical charge. Dr. Neva's eyes widened even further, which Marcus wouldn't have thought possible. You sense it already? Without even entering the complex? Fascinating. Sense what? Marcus asked. The Denali energy field. Most researchers require years of exposure before developing any sensitivity to it. Even then, it's subtle, easily dismissed as imagination. Neva approached him, scanner in hand. May I? Marcus nodded, and she waved the device over him. It emitted a series of soft beeps and chirps. Extraordinary, she murmured. Your cellular structure is already beginning to resonate with the field. The genetic markers must be more significant than we realized. Is it dangerous? Marcus asked. Unknown, Neva replied with disconcerting honesty. But considering our timeline and what's at stake, I suggest we proceed regardless. Security Officer Krex grunted. Reassuring. They passed through the massive doorway into a cavernous antechamber. The walls were covered in flowing script and diagrams that seemed to shift subtly when viewed from different angles. Lighting came from glowing panels in the ceiling that, impossibly, had remained functional for 3 million years. The Denali created materials that defy our understanding of molecular decay, Neva explained as they walked deeper into the complex. Self-repairing, self-powering. We have barely begun to understand the principles involved. The tingling sensation intensified as Marcus moved further into the structure. It was becoming more localized now, centered in his temples and fingertips. Strangely, he found himself able to anticipate the layout of the corridors before they reached them, as if he'd walked these halls before. "The central chamber is ahead," Neva said, leading them down a spiraling pathway. "It's where we detected the radiation that matched your genetic markers." The corridor opened into a vast circular room dominated by what could only be described as a three-dimensional star map. Galaxies, nebulae, and star systems hung in the air as holographic projections, slowly rotating around a central point. But unlike any star map Marcus had ever seen, this one had dark patches, voids where stars should be. The voids pulsed slowly, like breathing entities. "Those dark areas," Marcus said, pointing. "What are they?" Neva's voice grew solemn. "Regions where the Denali recorded total loss of matter and energy. Entire sectors of space, simply gone. Based on our analysis of the dating mechanisms in the map, these events occurred over a period of roughly 500 years. By the end of that time, the Denali themselves had vanished. The same thing that's happening to our fleets," Zandara observed. "Precisely," Neva confirmed. "But at a much slower rate. Whatever consumed the Denali took centuries. Whatever we are facing now seems to be operating on a vastly accelerated timeline." Marcus approached the star map, drawn by an inexplicable compulsion. As he neared, the tingling in his body intensified to an almost uncomfortable degree. The map seemed to respond to his proximity, the rotation speeding up slightly. "Be careful," warned Security Officer Vorn, resting a hand on his weapon. "We don't know what might trigger these systems." "I think," Marcus began, then paused as a strange certainty came over him. "I think it wants me to touch it." "That would violate every archaeological protocol we have," Neva said, though her tone suggested more excitement than concern. "The preservationist would have my career." "With respect," Dr. Zandara interjected, "protocol seems less important than preventing the extinction of all Alliance species." Neva hesitated only briefly. "You are right, of course." "Proceed, Pilot Donovan. But please try not to destroy priceless artifacts if you can help it." Marcus approached the central point of the map. The tingling had become a humming resonance that seemed to match the rhythm of his heartbeat. Without fully understanding why, he raised his hand toward the nexus where all the galactic arms converged. The moment his fingers made contact with the holographic display, the world exploded into light and sound. Marcus found himself elsewhere. He stood on what appeared to be a platform of swirling energy, surrounded by stars that looked nothing like the familiar constellations of Earth or any Alliance world he'd visited. The sensation of his body felt distant, as if he were experiencing everything through thick layers of insulation. Before him stood a figure, humanoid but clearly not human, tall and slender, with six-fingered hands and skin that seemed to shift between various metallic hues. Its eyes were multifaceted, like those of an insect, but warm and surprisingly expressive. "The beacon has found one," the being said, its voice somehow translated directly into Marcus's thoughts. "After so long, the warning will be heeded." "Who are you?" Marcus asked, finding that he could communicate despite the strangeness of this place. "I am Talon, last guardian of the Denali Defense Network. What remains of me, at least." The figure's form shimmered slightly. "And you are a descendant of those we seeded." "Seeded?" Marcus repeated. "When we realized our civilization was doomed, we scattered our essence, genetic fragments carried in specialized vessels designed to survive eons. We sent them to worlds that showed potential for developing sentient life. Your Earth was one such world. You put your DNA into primitive humans? Why?" Talon's expression shifted to something Marcus interpreted as sadness. "Because we needed to preserve the key, the unique genetic sequence that allows interface with our technology. Technology designed to combat the void." "The void," Marcus echoed. The anomalies consuming our fleets? Yes, it has many names across many realities. We called it the void because that is what it creates, nothingness. It is not a natural phenomenon, but neither is it a conventional weapon. It is a parasite that feeds on reality itself. Images flashed through Marcus's mind, enormous creatures of shadow and energy, phasing between dimensions, consuming matter and converting it to energy for their sustenance. They come from outside normal space-time, Talon continued. They discovered our reality by accident, but once they found it, they began systematically harvesting it. A single void entity can consume an entire star system over centuries, but they reproduce, and with each generation they become more efficient. How do we stop them? Marcus asked. You cannot, not directly. They exist partially outside your dimensional framework. Conventional weapons pass through them harmlessly. Then what's the point of all this? Marcus gestured around him. Your genetic seeding, this facility, the defense network you mentioned? Elon's form brightened slightly. We created a solution before our end. It's a dimensional resonance field that disrupts their ability to phase into our reality. When activated, it forces them fully into our dimension, making them vulnerable to conventional attacks. And this genetic key, it activates the defense system. It does more than that, Talon explained. The key allows the operator to synchronize with the control systems to direct the resonance field where needed. Without proper control, the field would be too diffused to be effective. Marcus felt a wave of understanding crash over him. That's why you needed to preserve the genetic pattern. You needed controllers who could direct your defense system, even after you were gone. Yes, we hoped that eventually one of the seeded worlds would produce beings advanced enough to understand and use our technology when the void inevitably returned. But how do I actually use this system? I don't know the first thing about dimensional resonance fields or how to control them. Talon's form moved closer. The knowledge is encoded within the genetic pattern itself. Your body already knows how to interface with our technology. You felt it when you approached our facility. The connection will grow stronger with proximity to the control nodes. Control nodes? Marcus asked. 7 installations, scattered across this galaxy, each containing a resonance generator. Together, they create a network powerful enough to affect the entire galactic region. This facility contains the master control node. The others are synchronization points. And where are these other nodes? The coordinates are stored within the system. But activating even the master node would provide protection for a significant region of space, enough to save your alliance, at least temporarily. Marcus felt the unreality of the situation washing over him. A backup pilot from Jupiter Station, suddenly responsible for activating an ancient alien defense system to save the galaxy. There is a cost, Talon added, his tone growing more solemn. The system requires a living controller to maintain synchronization during activation. The process is taxing. The Denali controllers trained for years to withstand the neural load. And I'm supposed to do this without training? Your genetic pattern will help, but yes, the risk is substantial. Physical damage, neural burnout, possibly death. I cannot guarantee your survival. Marcus let out a short, humorless laugh. Wonderful. Save the galaxy. Probably die in the process. Any other good news? The fate of trillions rests upon your decision, Talon said simply. Just as it once rested upon mine. You? Marcus asked. What do you mean? I was the last controller. What you see is not truly me, but an echo, an interface program encoded with my memories and personality. I remained at my post until the end, activating the system one final time to give the last evacuation ships a chance to escape. Did they make it? Talon's form dimmed slightly. I do not know. The neural load was excessive. This echo was created before the final activation. The implications hung in the air between them. Talon, the real Talon, had likely sacrificed himself in a last, desperate attempt to save some fragment of his civilization. How long do I have to decide? Marcus asked. Time passes differently here, in this interface space. In your reality, barely seconds have elapsed since you touched the control nexus. But the void grows stronger with each feeding. Your fleets, your stations, they are being converted into energy to spawn new void entities. Soon, they will be numerous enough to begin consuming inhabited worlds. Marcus thought of the Eighth Fleet, the Caledon outpost, all those lives not ended but transformed into food for these interdimensional parasites. He thought of Earth, his home, and all the worlds of the Galactic Alliance. If I do this, activate the Master Node, how long will the protection last? With a single controller. Perhaps one standard galactic year. Long enough for your people to locate and activate the other nodes, establishing a permanent defense network. If they can find them in time. Yes, Talon agreed. If. Marcus took a deep breath, though in this strange space, it felt more like a symbolic gesture than a physical necessity. Show me how to do it. Talon's multifaceted eyes seemed to smile. You have the courage of the Denali descendant. I will guide you through the initialization process. After that, your instincts must take over. The star field around them shifted, reforming into complex diagrams and control interfaces. Marcus felt knowledge flooding into him, not like being told something, but like remembering things he'd always known but somehow forgotten. The sensation was disorienting but exhilarating. The master control chamber lies beneath the map room, Talon explained as the information transfer continued. A genetic scan will grant you access. Once inside, you must connect to the control apparatus physically. Your body will become the conduit for the resonance field generation. And the neural load you mentioned will be substantial. You may experience sensory distortion, memory fragmentation, possibly permanent changes to your neural architecture. But the genetic markers will help stabilize the connection. Will I still be me afterward? Marcus asked. Talon hesitated before answering. You will be changed. How much depends on your resilience and the duration of the connection. The longer you maintain control, the more extensive the changes. But the protection will last longer. Yes, every moment you endure extends the field's effective duration. Marcus nodded, a strange calmness settling over him. Then let's not waste any more time. Show me what I need to do. With a sudden jolt, Marcus found himself back in the map room, his hand still touching the holographic display. Lieutenant Zandura was gripping his shoulder, concern evident in all four of her eyes. Donovan, can you hear me? You have been unresponsive for 47 seconds. Marcus blinked, his mind still processing the flood of information Talon had imparted. I'm fine. I know what we need to do. Dr. Neva rushed forward, scanner in hand. Your neural activity is off the charts. What happened? I spoke with an echo. A recording of the last Denali controller. Marcus gestured to the floor beneath them. There's a control chamber below us. I can activate a defense system that will protect us from the anomalies, the void entities. Void entities? Science Officer Grell repeated, his sensory organs extended in fascination. Interdimensional parasites that feed on reality itself. They consume matter and energy, converting it to sustenance and using it to reproduce. Marcus moved toward what appeared to be a solid section of wall. This is the access point. It requires a genetic scan. The others exchanged concerned glances, but no one moved to stop him as he placed his palm against the smooth surface. The wall shimmered, then melted away, revealing a spiraling staircase descending into darkness. How did you know that was there? Neva whispered, awe evident in her voice. We have scanned this chamber countless times. It was hidden until a compatible controller arrived, Marcus explained, already starting down the stairs. The knowledge is in the genetic code somehow. I don't fully understand it, but I can feel it. The team followed him down the staircase, which illuminated with each step they took. After descending what felt like hundreds of meters, they emerged into a chamber that took everyone's breath away. It was enormous, at least 10 times the size of the map room above, and dominated by a central pillar of swirling energy contained within crystalline tubes. The pillar extended from floor to ceiling, pulsing with a blue-white light that cast strange shadows around the chamber. Surrounding it were 7 control stations, each shaped to accommodate a humanoid operator. The master control node, Marcus said unnecessarily, one of 7 across the galaxy. Together they form a network capable of generating a resonance field that forces the void entities fully into our dimension, making them vulnerable to conventional weapons. This technology, Grell breathed, his scientific curiosity overriding his usual reserved demeanor. It's millennia beyond anything in the Alliance. The power requirements alone must be astronomical. It draws energy directly from subspace, Marcus said, knowledge flowing into his conscious mind as he needed it, self-sustaining and virtually limitless. The Denali mastered zero-point energy extraction. Dr. Neva was practically vibrating with excitement. This single discovery could revolutionize Alliance technology. The applications are endless. If we survive long enough to study it, Zandara minded them grimly. What exactly do you need to do, Pilot Donovan? Marcus approached the central pillar. I need to connect to the control apparatus, becoming a living conduit for the system. My neural patterns will guide the resonance field, focusing it where needed. That sounds dangerous, Security Officer Krex observed. It is, Marcus confirmed. The neural load is substantial. The Denali trained for years to handle it. I have had about 5 minutes of preparation. Then we should wait, Zandara said firmly. Request more time from Galactic Command. Bring specialists here. Marcus shook his head. There's no time. The void entities are reproducing exponentially with each fleet they consume. The first fleet is likely already gone. Soon they will begin targeting populated worlds. He stepped onto a platform before the central pillar, which illuminated in response to his proximity. A control interface emerged from the floor, a simple chair with what looked like neural connectors positioned to align with the occupant's spine and head. Once I'm connected, Marcus continued, I will guide the resonance field to cover as much of Alliance space as possible, prioritizing populated systems. The protection should last about a year, enough time for the Alliance to locate and activate the other nodes. And what happens to you during this process? Neva asked quietly. Marcus met her gaze steadily. Best case scenario, I survive with some neural reconfiguration. But worst case, I don't survive at all. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Finally, Zandara stepped forward. Galactic Command sent you here because they believed you could make a difference. I was skeptical. A backup human pilot solving a crisis that has consumed 7 fleets? It seemed absurd. She placed a hand on his shoulder. But now I understand. They didn't send you because of what you know, but because of what you are. A genetic descendant of ancient aliens, apparently, Marcus said with a wry smile. Not exactly what I expected when I signed up for pilot training. I will inform Commander Torek and Galactic Command of what we have discovered, Zandara continued, and ensure they understand the importance of locating the other 6 nodes. Marcus nodded, then turned to face the control apparatus. The tingling sensation had become an almost pleasant vibration throughout his body, as if his cells were singing in harmony with the ancient technology. If you are going to do this, Neva said, stepping closer, at least let me monitor your vital signs. Perhaps we can pull you out if the strain becomes too great. I appreciate the thought, Doctor, but once the process begins, it can't be interrupted without compromising the field integrity. Marcus sat in the control chair, which immediately adjusted to his physiology. Besides, I don't think the Denali designed an emergency stop button. The neural connectors positioned themselves against his spine and the base of his skull. They felt warm, almost alive, against his skin. Any final words of wisdom before I potentially fry my brain saving the galaxy? Marcus asked, attempting to keep his tone light despite the gravity of the moment. Try not to die, Krex offered helpfully. It would make our report to Commander Torek awkward. Marcus laughed, surprised to find genuine humor in the moment. I will do my best. He took a deep breath, initiating neural interface in 3, 2, 1. The connectors activated, and Marcus's consciousness exploded outward. He felt himself simultaneously present in the control chamber and expanded across vast regions of space. His awareness encompassed star systems, nebulae, the swirling arms of the galaxy itself. And within that vastness he saw them, the void entities. They weren't solid creatures, but shifting masses of anti-energy, holes in the fabric of reality that consumed everything they touched. Dozens of them swarmed around what Marcus recognized as the remains of the First Fleet near Vega Starbase. More were emerging from the dimensional boundary, drawn by the feast of matter and energy. With a thought that felt like moving a mountain, Marcus directed the resonance field toward them. The master node hummed with power, channeling energy through his nervous system in quantities that would have instantly killed an unmodified human. Even with his Denali genetics, the pain was extraordinary, but so was the effect. As the resonance field expanded outward, the void entities began to solidify, their amorphous forms condensing into physical shapes that resembled massive, tentacled shadows. They writhed in apparent distress as they fully materialized in normal space-time. Marcus pushed harder, extending the field further, encompassing more of Alliance territory. Each extension increased the neural load exponentially, and he felt his consciousness fragmenting under the strain. Memories, thoughts, his very sense of self began to blur at the edges. Through the haze of pain and dissolution, he became aware of alarms blaring in the control chamber. Distant voices, Zandara, Neva, the others, shouting in concern. His physical body was convulsing, blood flowing from his nose and ears as the neural load exceeded his biological limitations. But he couldn't stop. Not yet. Not with billions of lives depending on the protection only he could provide. With a final tremendous effort, Marcus pushed the field to its maximum sustainable radius, encompassing all major Alliance worlds and starbases. The void entities within the field were now fully materialized, vulnerable to conventional weapons. Field stable, he managed to gasp through gritted teeth. Tell Alliance, they can fight now. The weapons will work. As his consciousness began to slip away, Marcus caught fragments of frantic activity around his physical form. Neva shouting for medical equipment. Zandara relaying information to the Intrepid. The security officers restraining his convulsing body. His last clear thought was a silent message to Talon, the long-dead Denali controller whose echo had guided him. I understand your sacrifice now. I hope it was worth it. Then darkness claimed him. 3 weeks later, the First Fleet, or what remained of it, scored humanity's first victory against the void entities. With the resonance field holding them in physical form, Alliance weapons tore through the creatures that had previously been untouchable. 6 specialized teams were dispatched to locate and activate the remaining nodes, guided by the coordinates extracted from the master control system. The hunt for controllers with compatible genetics began in earnest, with genetic testing of humans becoming a top priority throughout Alliance space. And in a medical facility on Farpoint Colony, a former backup pilot lay in a regeneration chamber, his neural pathways slowly rebuilding under the careful guidance of Denali medical technology discovered in the lower levels of the excavation site. Commander Torek stood beside the chamber, studying the readings with a mixture of concern and respect. Will he recover, Dr. Neva? The diminutive archaeologist looked up from her instruments. Define or cover, Commander. His brain architecture has been fundamentally altered by the neural load. He's no longer entirely human, nor is he Denali. He's becoming something in between. But will he wake up? Will he still be Marcus Donovan? Neva's large eyes softened. The core personality structures remain intact. He will remember who he is, who he was. But he will also have access to knowledge and abilities no human has possessed before. The Denali genetic markers were activated and enhanced by the control system, in a very real sense. He has become the first of a new hybrid species. Torek's scales rippled in what Neva had learned was his expression of thoughtfulness. A high price to pay for saving the Alliance. Ask him when he wakes, Neva suggested. I suspect he would say it was worth it, Inside the regeneration chamber, Marcus floated in healing suspension, his mind rebuilt but expanded. In his dreams, he traveled the pathways between stars, felt the rhythm of the resonance field as it held the void entities at bay, and connected with echoes of Denali controllers from millions of years past. He had been a backup pilot. Unimportant. Expendable. Now he was something else entirely, a bridge between two species separated by eons, the key to humanity's role in an ancient defense network, and perhaps the first of many who would carry both human and Denali heritage into the future. Not bad for a backup, he thought as his consciousness drifted through the stars. Not bad at all. In the void between galaxies, something ancient stirred. The prey was fighting back, using technology thought long lost. The easy feast had suddenly become challenging. But the void had faced the Denali before, had consumed their civilization, despite their clever defenses. It had taken time, patience, adaptation. And now, with the taste of Alliance fleets still fresh in its non-corporeal senses, the primary void entity, the first hunger, progenitor of all lesser entities, turned its attention fully toward the galaxy that dared to resist. The hunt would be more interesting this time, and ultimately just as successful. Unless a former backup pilot and his newfound allies could find a way to defeat what the mighty Denali could not. The game was just beginning.